Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, January 6th. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, and I'm here with...
Hey, everybody. Andrew Plank here with LePage. I'm with the Vibe Collective, and we have also today...
Jen Lowe, mortgage broker with DLC Modern Mortgage Group.
Welcome, everybody. How's it going?
Good.
Good.
It's been a snowy week.
So I have a question. How do you guys figure the snow affects real estate?
Okay. So yes, it does. It certainly does, because people are not going out to look at homes when they're concerned about, getting in a car and spinning out or getting in a crash. So that affects showings, and it also affects, obviously, if someone had photos lined up for the day of to get photos done. But it does, weather always affects real estate. Whether it's any weather event, I find affects the real estate market. But it's like they're minor little blips.
Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity if you're a realtor to take advantage of the bad weather and go and show properties and write offers, because ain't no one else doing it. Huh?
Or take a day off, realtors. Take a day off and enjoy the downtime if you have been... Sorry, Jane is shaking her head at me. It's like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Sell, sell, sell.
Jane doesn't take a day off.
Going. Yeah, Jane does not.
I'm going up to the Malahat today, and so I was wondering what the weather was going to be like, and I'm like, I'm from Toronto, I can handle it. And then I realized the snow is way different here. It's wet, and can be a bit icy when you change elevation.
Well, yeah, it's true. I was talking to a realtor. We had the real estate expo, the real estate board put on, and there was a realtor that had come up from the Duncan area, and she was saying she had expected the Malahat to be a mess, and she said it was the easiest drive she's had in quite a long time because there weren't many people on the road and the roads were clear. So I don't think there's been more snow since, but yeah, sometimes it works in your favor.
So I used to work in Nanaimo at VIU. I was a prof there, and I would drive over the Malahat. I was pregnant, and it was the first time I got a cell phone. That was in 2001. 2000. No, 2002. 2002. Yeah. So my husband got me a cell phone because he was worried about me driving over the Malahat by myself. So I did have a cell phone before that, but that was like the first. I hadn't had one. I had one when I was a teacher on call in the 90s, but then I didn't use it.
Okay. All right.
So expensive. Yeah.
We had pagers back in the day. I remember, when we first got licensed, we were running around with pagers as well. So those were...
I look like Dilbert. Remember we had Palm Pilots and then a pager, and then we had something else. Oh, we had our openers for a lockbox.
Mine, because I had the Trio or whatever it was called, I forget what it's called, but it had it built in, so I didn't have to carry the extra device. But yeah, our pockets were full back in the day. That being said, when you talk to Kent Deans talks about, back in the 70s and 80s when he was doing real estate, you'd have a pager perhaps, but you also didn't have a cell phone. And so what you had was a pocket full of quarters.
Yeah, you would stop.
And you'd have to stop when you got a page, and you'd go, to the next, payphone and just plunk your quarters in and make the calls to call people back. So,
well, even when
I was a realtor, I had to go to work in snow this deep.
Even in 2006, when we started, I remember I would have to drive to the office to check my email, and then when cell phones sort of became like the email, people started getting email on cell phone, and then there were notifications, and it'd be like, you'd be in the office, bing, 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 bing.
It's like being in a casino. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, yeah. But the BlackBerry was amazing for us realtors. I loved the BlackBerry when it came out, and having the onboard keyboard, and the actual amount of how effective you could be just increased so dramatically.
Yeah.
It's funny that. Anyway, what are we talking about today? We're going to
We're
go over the stats, aren't we?
And we are. Let's we got a new layout here. Woohoo. They're nice and big so everyone can actually read it. So it is January 16th and we are going to be I've got the wrong title here. Hold on a second.
It is not January 16th. No.
Yeah.
Today is February 6th, folks, and we're going to be reviewing the January
That's so funny.
statistics. And just ignore the billboard there that says it's January 16th.
Isn't that weird? I totally changed it, but I guess it didn't update. Anyway, okay, so we're looking at stats today, February 6th. We're doing the January market update. I'm pretty sure all the stats are on the slide, so that'll be good. If you like the show, please click like. We love to hear your questions, so please ask. We are monitoring the chat while we go. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channels, and of course, share if you know anybody who's buying or selling. We'd be glad to help them. All three of us. Andrew.
Okay. So today is February 6th, and we look back from the Mondays when these stats come out for the week prior. So as of February 3rd, for the last week, we had 422 unconditional sales. We had 1,172 new listings go live, and a active listing pool of 2,395 listings. So that's up from the year before in active listings where we had 2,140. We have many more new listings have come live than 2024, 1,172 again versus 960. So all of these numbers are up over last year, and it does feel like we've got had a pretty busy January. Now, compared to,
I was just going to say, we had 307 on the 27th, and we went up to 422. So that's a big jump.
Yeah, I was not surprised because, I think that the curve of people listing their homes rises as we get more and more into spring. Every week we have more people coming to the table. In early January, people are holding off, and again, the weather events and uncertainty causes people to hold off as well. So as we get into February, we should see these numbers rising even more, and then March-ish will be a lot of good activity for new listings. I would predict.
So we're gonna look at the stats for the month, and they show the activity over the past 2 years. So it'll just be interesting. I was thinking, we feel what's going on in the market. It's nice to see if the stats actually reflect what is actually going on in the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to really quickly talk about, I was reading again the House Hunt Victoria blog from Leo, and he was talking about the fact that listings are up and sales are up, but the inventory is not being drawn down because of the number of listings coming up. So although you would expect, because sales are up, that the number of listings would be drawn down, but we actually have a pretty good inventory of both coming on. So he says, why is there no inventory drawdown when sales have been substantially stronger than last fall? Simply because of new listings, which are well above what we've seen in recent years. New lists are coming to the market at a greater pace than we've seen since 2012. Of course, many of these are relists from properties that failed to sell last year or the year before, but at least it's giving buyers some choice. So you guys wanted to, it's nice to see that kind of activity.
Yeah, and I think it's healthy because I have buyers who are looking, and we're ready to list. We're also looking at the same time, and they want to make sure that there's the inventory there. So when they go to make an offer, that they'll when they go to list, they'll have something to choose from.
You talk about. I just want to talk about liquidity for a minute, because they talk about liquidity in different markets, and obviously, housing is not a very liquid asset. You can't just buy and sell it on a whim. You have to put it out to market and wait for buyers, and then wait for this closing and so forth. But when you have a property to sell and you want to buy a property, there are certain times when it's really, really difficult to get that transfer happening, and that's what Jane was alluding to, where you just don't get a there's no inventory to buy. There's no inventory to buy, so you just can't sell because you're not going to find a place to live. And we're moving into what I guess my point is, and Jane I think will agree with me, is we're moving into a marketplace where we have the opportunity to buy and sell and do that transfer, there's only certain windows of time in the market where that's available. And I think we're moving into a good time for that this spring.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this discussion. We're planning like 6 months in advance. A lot of people, it's funny when they meet you and they're not familiar with real estate. They're like, just so you know, I won't be selling until maybe 6 months. Well, good. So let's put you in touch with the mortgage broker and get your ducks in a row, get all your documents together. Let's get your house ready. And then boom, we're ready to go next spring. So,
yeah.
Okay, over the last 7 days, we had 334 new listings. That's compared to 240 the week before. Pending were 142, so not a big jump over the week before of 129. And price decreases were at 67, which was pretty much on par with the week before. Price increases 1 on each week. Back on market 4. I never understand back on market. Solds, lots ending. So generally I find when I'm working with a buyer, we're picking dates that work for them if they're coming from a rental, either half a month in or end of the month. And so that's why you see a lot of completions or solds at the end of the month. And then expired are 89. Probably some of them are relist and 6 were withdrawn. So usually when they're withdrawn, so there's different terminology here. Expired, withdrawn. Expired generally means they're at the end of the contract. Withdrawn means that maybe they're preemptively taking it down and then relisting it.
Yeah, those withdrawn and back on market are related. So you could have a listing contract that goes from January to June, and then mid contract, the seller has something happen. They say, we don't want to be on market right now. You might withdraw it. You could expire it early, but you could also just take it off market for a little bit. And so it's not expired. It's been withdrawn early from the listing contract.
Yep. Okay, Jen. So Jen and I were talking yesterday, and what were we discussing again, Jen? About rates and
the capital gains.
Capital gains, and also we were talking about what's happening right now with Coast Capital wanting to move across country.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking also about you're talking about interest rates and how you can get a better deal right now at the credit unions. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, well, right now the banks are just not quite as competitive, and it depends on what kind of rate you're looking for as well. But on the variable rate side, the banks are not giving a very good spread off of prime rate. Credit unions, we're finding, are they're just a little bit more competitive, offering lower rates. What I'm seeing is that we've got Coast Capital Savings that the word on the street is that they're wanting to expand across Canada. So they are offering much lower rates than that of the banks. But with that also comes long wait times for getting approvals for applications. So that can be a challenge. But then further to that, we've got another credit union that we work with, Island Savings, and I think they're just trying to keep up with Coast Capital. So they've also offered lower rates as well.
So what's the difference in rates at a bank versus a credit union right now?
Right now, I would say about 0.4%.
That's big.
Yeah, that's not insignificant. Yeah.
Like 0.1% on a $500,000 mortgage is $30 a month.
Right.
So difference of say $90 a month on a $500,000 mortgage.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the capital gains.
sorry. So sorry.
Love it. The capital gains, well, I was venting a little bit with Jane yesterday, and it's been interesting these past few years how many new rules and changes that have been put out there. You know, changes to property transfer tax, or changes to a speculation tax, or all these different things. And one change that was put forward was capital gains as of June of 2024, above capital gains. And I'm not an accountant. Just make that clear. Above, what's that, Andrew?
We are not either. So
No. Yeah.
Full disclaimer here, folks. Yeah.
So they rescinded that.
Yes. And that change is now potentially going to go into place as of January 1st, 2026. So we did see, and I mean, I noticed there was definitely some people that were looking to sell their investment properties prior to that June cutoff. So yeah.
I know there was a run on cottages in Ontario. People were selling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the capital gains before was 50% on the first 250,000, and then up to what was it, 67% or something?
It's for the amount of the capital gain above 250. That was going to be changing to increasing from 1/2 to 2/3 above 200, so 0.75% above 250,000.
2/3 is 66%.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, not 3/4.
Yeah, so that's now back down to 50%. Why did that not make the news?
Yeah, that's what I'm. So was this legislation that they were proposing, and then they decided not to come in? So it's never been put forward. No matter, that's maybe why it hasn't made the news. It's not like they're actually changing existing tax law, that they are walking back what they were thinking of doing. Okay.
So when we were talking about it yesterday, I was thinking maybe the thought was with the tariffs that it would be too onerous on everybody, and they wanted to put cash back in people's hands. I don't know.
Hard
Who knows?
to make legislation based on what ifs and possibilities, and it tends to be like moving a big ship. So reactive legislation is difficult. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with tariffs and so on. So it's kind of that's a hard one to start making all kinds of panic management decisions around.
I just find it interesting, the amount of changes that have been put forward, and okay, this is happening as of this date, and then, oh, whoops, we change our mind. Actually, sorry, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
We'll delay that.
I've heard the term trial balloon, and a lot of that reference to what's going on in the States, but we're going to throw out this grandiose or strange idea and see how it lands. We're going to throw a bunch of them out there, and then the ones that seem to get good traction we'll go forward with, and the ones that don't, we're not going to. But it's called a trial balloon, and so there is that.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't work in government anymore. I did in the early 2000s, and it is just not for me. Yeah.
Right.
Great programs canceled because the new government wants to change how they're perceived and all that. Oh, okay. Just forget about it. Anyway, okay. I appreciate everything our civil servants do.
I'm trying to bring this back to real estate and say, we can also do trial balloons in marketing where we, do a number of different A, B, C testing and see what happens and go with the one that works. And that's something that we do. It's not a negative. It's just everybody's got their tools and their techniques and tricks. So what are we doing here? We're looking at this beautiful graph again.
So this is total active listings over the past 2 years. So we started in January 2023 with less than 1,800 listings overall. And you can see we were accumulating by the end of the year. The reason for that is because we tend to have a good list to sale ratio at the beginning of the year generally. And then at the end of the year, we may have a little bump, but usually the listings outpace the sales. So this is why we're seeing an accumulation of listings. And then generally in December, we see a decrease in the number of listings. People, November, December, they decide to hold off, take a bit of a vacation and enjoy their holidays. And so that's why every year we see a decrease. January this year, we saw quite a big bump, I think, in the number of new listings, and that's reflected in this graph. Do you want to talk about this one?
Well, so if we look to the far right, the January 2025, you can certainly see the bar section has really jumped from December, which happens every year. And if you can go back to December 2023 to January 2024, you can see a similar kind of bump, except this one's a larger bump here this month. We're definitely seeing more listings coming on market, you know, on par with what you would see in, you know, somewhere between, if I look at the past years, we actually have more listings have come on market than, say, in the spring of, much of the spring of 2023, except for maybe May and June. So it's a really big bump for January. And even December had more than we're seeing from the 2023. But when we follow the sales, we also see sales have come down in the last few months to hitting about a par between December and January in the last 2 months. But we are going to see, just as you've seen in these past 2 years, when you look at the January, where the graph for that line goes, it starts to go up. And I suspect we're going to see probably similar to 2023 graph, a little bit steeper than we would have had in 2024. I am predicting a busier year than 2024.
But if you look, January 2023, we're at probably like 300, and then last year we were up close to 400, and then this year we were over 400 in December. Sorry,
2023. Yeah, 220.
Sorry, December.
Yeah.
So it felt really fast at the end of last year. I thought, like October, November felt really fast.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely active. I certainly was still doing lots of business throughout the year last year. It didn't feel like some of the years where it's just the tap just doesn't turn off at all, but it certainly was on not simmer, but a little bit better than simmer throughout the year. Go ahead.
You've got people that would have bought during COVID that have their mortgages coming up for renewal and may or not be excited about the change in the interest rates, and may want to sell and list their property.
Are you seeing that happening? Are people approaching you about that?
Yeah, lots of inquiries about listing in the spring, and we may want to list in the spring, and people wanting to refinance.
So I have a question. They were talking about the potential, I don't know who they are, of multiple rate decreases. I heard it on the news. So I'm just wondering if that's in response to maybe prevent people going into foreclosure. Is that the strategy there? That there's a call for interest rate drops?
No, I think that's kind of what's been already happening. Like throughout 2024, the rate drops were in consideration of the amount of mortgages that are coming up for renewal in 2025 and 2026. What we've got right now, and where there's potential drops with interest rates continuing to come, is with this tariff uncertainty, whether or not, we've got the 1 month break.
Yeah.
I can't say that word actually. It was in my mind, but I wasn't coming out. So that creates uncertainty, and how is it going to affect the economy? And if the economy is negatively affected, the Bank of Canada is going to need to drop interest rates.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So looking at the list to sale ratio, we are in essentially a balanced market. Any comments, Andrew?
Well, it's really that it's been quite flat and I won't say boring, but kind of boring for a couple of years. And also we haven't really seen the property appreciation that we would normally see if it was a seller's market. And so the balanced market just keeps prices pretty much steady as well. So we haven't seen a lot of ups or downs. I mean, there's ups and downs by area and by, property type and so forth. But, I'm talking to people who bought a couple of years ago and they're saying, thinking of selling, what can I get for my home? And I'm telling them, okay, your home's worth about what you paid for it. It might be actually worth a little less depending on where they were. It might be a little bit more, but when they account for all the costs of selling and then buying again and so forth, they're not in a better position. Now, there's a whole conversation about what they would have been saving on rent during that time, those kind of things. But in terms of where the market's gone and so forth, I find the thing that really fuels the market is property appreciation, where people go, okay, I've got some more equity in my home now. So now I'm in a position to be able to leverage and buy a second property, or I'm in a position to be able to jump up the property ladder because my values have gone up. I've got more equity, and I've now got the ability to take that and put it into something bigger. But with this kind of slow non-movement, people aren't really in a better position from their homes. I guess what I'm saying is there was a time in real estate where people were using their homes as piggy banks.
Yes.
And became to expect that. Jane, you and I saw a lot of that. I did that myself with my home that I bought in 2002. And you end up seeing such quick appreciation that you're like, okay, well, we can consolidate debts, or we can buy that trailer, or we can do this or do that. And that then kind of steamrolls the economy in some ways as well. But we're not seeing that anymore.
Well, I think that's what happened during COVID.
Yeah, money was so cheap. And one thing that I had a light bulb went off one time when I was doing a mortgage comparison for a client and comparing monthly payments to biweekly. And during COVID times, really paying accelerated biweekly when your interest rate is 1%, you don't see that effect on the reduction to the amortization of the mortgage.
Because you pay off more of your principal over time when you do. So you can reduce your length of time by 4 or 5 years, right?
Yes, by paying biweekly. Now, I love doing those calculators because it does make a huge difference by paying accelerated biweekly or making those lump sum payments because the interest rates are higher.
So I have clients who were very conservative, and they just bought a townhouse, and I believe they used you as a mortgage broker. And one of the buyers was like, "Oh yeah, I've only paid monthly," and I'm like, "Well, if you do accelerated biweekly, that's just one extra payment, but it can reduce your amortization over 5 years." And this person, who's extremely strategic, I guess nobody explained that to her, and she was like, that was huge for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we won't go into the fine details on that, folks, but you should definitely reach out to Jen if you have questions on that or want to run a calculation on your own home.
Happy to help.
Yeah.
There we go. A little bit of free free advertising. Okay. Single family homes. Andrew, you want to go over this?
So again, I mean, overall, you can see this is the single family home average price. And yeah, I mean, we had it looked like things might be going up in the late spring, early summer of 2023. And then they came down again to kind of the springtime average from before. So we're kind of just been, again, overall flat when you kind of grab, squint your eyes, blur it out, and you can just see this is pretty much a flat one overall. Nothing too exciting. We started in January 2023 with average house price at just below 1.25 million, and right now we are just above 1.25 million.
So I was just talking to some realtors in Ontario, and there's a group called the Real Estate Strategists or something like that. Anyway, so I have a good friend who lives in Toronto, and I was saying, she was saying she's going to be listing a property, and
Mhm.
it is going to be listed for 10% under asking. And I'm like, is that normal? And she said, that's what's been happening in the city. So then I went to this group and I'm like, well, what is the price? So if, let's say, a house is averaging at $1 million, what would you list it at? And they were saying $899 to $900. And then what they do is they wait a week, like we did during COVID. So they're doing that strategy, and then they're waiting for multiple offers. And I'm like, right now in Victoria, I feel everyone's trying to figure out where the market value is and list it there. And maybe we get one offer or two offers, but it takes a couple of weeks. So what do you think about that change in strategy, Andrew?
Well, I mean, I've always said if you list your home for $1, you're going to end up selling it at market value under multiple offers.
Yeah.
Like that strategy will always work, but its question is, well, it will always work to get your home sold quickly, and you will get close to market value. In an appreciating market where things are really, really hot, even listing at market value, you're going to get above market value potentially when you've got desperate buyers who've lost out multiple times and they're fearing losing out on this one, and having the market go up so much that they're going to be paying an extra $50,000 in a month. They're going to bid 25 over market value just to sort of insure against that. But even in a pretty sane market, you can get ahead of it by underpricing. And you're still going to get that scarcity feeling of people. You're going to get more boots through the door. People are going to see it, which is what you need. And some people are going to say, it's worth writing an offer. There's going to be the low ballers. They're going to bring in a low ball offer, but there's going to be one or two people who are going to get through that home and say, you know what, actually, this works for me. And I've seen a lot of homes and I know what they're worth. I'm going to make an offer that works for me.
Yeah, where they say it's too good not to write an offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What if I get it?
Yeah. There's definitely been, I think that it reached a point of, what's it called? Fatigue with the multiple offers. I think we had multiple offer fatigue where buyers were saying, I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't like this. I'm not going to, I'm out, I'm just peace out. You guys go ahead and do all your multiple offer stuff. I'm going to sit on the sidelines, even if it means I'm losing out on price appreciation. I'm going to wait for the market to get more sane. Emotionally, they just couldn't deal with it. And I totally understand.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so let's go back to here. And then the next one is row townhouses. So again, fairly steady over the past couple of years, I would say. There are a few outliers, but generally we're looking around 800,000. I just saw a beautiful townhouse on Dallas Road. I think it was really high, probably around $2 million. I mean, because there's so few, we always talk about this skews the numbers. And so why are the numbers up or down? Generally, when they're flat, it's because maybe there's an outlier in there.
Yeah, when you only have, I don't know, let's just say with single family homes, if you're having hundreds of sales a month, you're going to have much more smooth data. When you've only got 10 sales a month, one or two outliers in price, whether they were low or high, are going to skew this. So this is where these ones jump around a lot more.
I feel like we're in 2019. So I took my favorite graph and I took out a few columns.
Yay, thank you.
So
that's all I was asking for all these years. Oh, I'm so happy, Jane. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll do the single family homes. So for January 2025, our benchmark price, so this is based on a home pricing index based on not a real home, but like an ideal home. The benchmark price was $1,147,000. That's down 0.3% from the benchmark of December of $1,151,200, and it's over 2.7% from last year. In the core, we're looking higher number of 1,287,000, and that is also down from last year by last month by 1.5% when it was just at 1.3, and it is up over last year. In the West Shore, we're looking at 1,036,000. That is up from 1,006,000 in December of 2024. Up by 3%. Wow, that's a lot. And change over last year, up 5.3. And that's based on a lot of houses, I think, in Royal Bay. The peninsula
construction, Royal Bay and the South Point and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Single family homes in the peninsula are 1.234%. That is down from last month of 1.252 and by 1.5%, and then up 3% year over year. Do you want to do condos?
Sure. So just to clarify, you call these ideal properties. They're not necessarily ideal. They may not actually be your favorite property, but they are idealized for the area. So it's super nerdy, and apologize for being super wordsmithy there, but this HPI is really about determining what is like the representative home in the area. They kind of create this imaginary home, and then they track that imaginary home over time. And so in the West Shore, it might be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 2-car garage built in the year 2000. And then in town, Victoria, it might be a 1960s or whatever. It's going to be a different configuration. So, condos in Greater Victoria, so that's sort of the whole greater area. The benchmark price $549,700 compared to $549 the month before. So it's only a 0.1% change in value, and it's down 0.7% over last year. For the core, the benchmark was $548,100, and that is just up a little bit from $547,800. So again, 0.1%. And down 0.7% over last year. So pretty minor changes all throughout all of these. 521,900 for the West Shore. That is up a bit over the 516,200 from last month. So that's 1.1% change, down 0.2% over last year. And then for the peninsula, 625,000. So you can see quite a significant difference in the benchmark condo for an apartment in the peninsula, so a bit of a different configuration perhaps. 625,600 in the last month, 634,300 the month before, so we are down 1.4%, and overall over the last year we're down 1%.
Just want to say, just looking at the numbers overall, the peninsula has been doing really well compared to the rest of the city.
Yeah. I've always felt there's a lot of opportunity on the peninsula that's not being seen or taken advantage of, and all the attention is on West Shore. But the peninsula is the place to go. Well,
so for the condos, they're building condos with ocean view, right? And I mean, it's a great place. You're close to everything out there. Essentially, you don't have to go into town if you don't need to, right?
I've got people I work with who are saying, I don't want to be in the West Shore because I actually travel for work, and so I have to be near the airport and the ferries. We've got so much ALR land on the peninsula. This is going to turn into a bit of a thing on the peninsula, but there's so much ALR land on the peninsula. There's only so much room to grow. There's some beautiful big properties, wonderful big properties up in the North Saanich area that are so well priced compared to what you'd get in town. And the commute is, better and smoother and more reliable than, going out to Chosin Souk, right? Jane will argue that one maybe, but so I think that the peninsula is a great place to invest and a great place to watch, and the growth in Sydney, it's such a beautiful city.
So I just want to say, it's interesting you say that, because when I got into real estate, I live on the West Shore, but I work primarily downtown because I was comfortable with that. That's how I grew up downtown. And the West Shore was probably half the price of the downtown. And now we've seen it really align. So And there's so many opportunities out here. I just love it, honestly. Lots of great places to eat. There's the beaches. It's just more accessible to come in and out of town. So, kudos to the West Shore.
Mhm.
I'm born and raised. I never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, like you said, the alignment in price has become much more not exactly on par, but that price argument for going to the West Shore is not there as much. They've got really good infrastructure and they've got lots of room to grow, and it's going to be more of a center than anything that the peninsula could do. But if you're wanting to be in an area where there's, high demand and low supply, that's the peninsula. If you want to be a place where there's high supply, that's going to be the West Shore.
Right. So, yesterday it was interesting. I was working with a buyer. I took them to the core of Victoria in Fairfield. We went and looked at a property, and they're like, I could never live this far down. They've only lived in Victoria in kind of the Quadra Mackenzie area. And I found that interesting. And I said to the person, I was like, I did this podcast, Vancouver Island Time, and everybody said two things. One is, I live in the best part of town because they were comfortable with it. And the second was, it's only 20 minutes away from everything else. So really, there's no bad place to live in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Row houses in the Greater Victoria, 785,000 benchmark price for January. That is just up 0.9% from last month, 778,000, and up year over year, 3.8%. In the core, we're at 858,000. That's up from last month of 845 by 1.6%, and 5.1% in the core for townhouses over last year. 708,000 in the West Shore. So we are still looking at a good deal there compared to the core. That's down from last month by 0.2%, and it's up 3.7% year over year. And in the peninsula, we're at 702,000. That's down from last year by 782. Sorry. Yeah, that is up 1.5% from last month at 770,000, and up year over year at 0.8. So generally we're doing pretty well, hey, except for condos.
Yeah, except for condos. Condos have been really flat. And when you look at what's happened here, I'm seeing, so when you look for single family homes, the West Shore had the best appreciation over the year at 5.3% for single family homes. Condos have been pretty flat all over, and in fact, across the board, just slightly down for these benchmark pricing. And then for row townhouses, interestingly, it's the core that saw the most appreciation for the benchmark price.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So it's not, yeah.
It's not what?
Well, I was going to say it's not area specific. For single family homes, it's the West Shore. For townhouses, it's the core. So it's not area specific across the board.
So if someone were to say to you that I'm moving to Victoria, what would be your favorite area for them to move to? Let's say they're a family with 2 kids.
Well, I mean, I'd have to ask some questions about lifestyle and what they loved about the area they lived in, and get some information about that. But if you're asking me my personal favorite areas to live in for Victoria, I mean, I am really enjoying living in the core, and that's partly work related, just because I know I can get to the peninsula and to the West Shore and to Oak Bay. Because if you drop a pin and you look at travel times, I'm kind of central.
20 minutes away from everything?
20 minutes from everything, but you're not 20 minutes from everything if you're going to the peninsula from Metchosin. You aren't. But that's one thing, and also just access to parks and to shopping and to restaurants and so forth. But there's a lot of people, I would say, you should go to the West Shore because there's so much growth in amenities, and less expensive for certain things. For retirees, I might say you should look at the peninsula and go to Sydney, it really depends on who. I can't answer that question without talking to them more. But my own personals, actually, I gotta say, I would taste test every area of Victoria if I could. I've lived all over Victoria. I've lived in many, many areas, and Willis Point, that'd be an amazing place to live for a while, with inexpensive real estate, relatively speaking, ocean views or waterfront for comparable to other stuff, and you're really rural. In the Highlands would be also a really interesting rural. We were just talking the other day about, because we were up in Smithers staying in a log cabin, and I was just talking to my partner saying, in Victoria, if you want to live in a log cabin in the woods, there's a bunch of them that were built up in behind like Mount Finlayson, and you see them come up fairly often.
Yeah.
And if you want that kind of lifestyle, it'd be close to town, go for it. So I just don't know I would want to do it for 10 years. Right.
You're so funny. I'm just laughing because
You can't nail me down on
one
that.
area, just one area. Okay.
Fernwood.
Fernwood?
How's that? Oakland's Fernwood. Yeah, it's a great area.
I think you get good value for Oaklands and Fernwood, relative to the city.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, it is hard. I think for value, it's Esquimalt still, because you get accessibility to everything.
No, I mean, can I change my answer?
I really like Fairfield because you can walk to downtown. I think they're great parks. I think it was well thought out. You're close to the water. It can be a bit cool in the summer, relatively speaking, but like temperature wise, I love where I live in the West Shore. Like I have this view. It's amazing. It's so quiet where I am too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the peninsula, I love driving. I love driving down or up the highway, up the Pat Bay Highway, and looking to the right over where the farms are. I just think that's so beautiful.
But West Saanich Road is such a fun one to drive as well, and that's sort of the alternate to the highway, and it's nice curves and fun, beautiful views and so forth. But I was going to change, when you said Esquimalt, it reminded me that I have always loved Vic West, just the side of Esquimalt. And I think that's a great place to live. And then when we lived downtown in Humboldt Valley, that's a great area to live if you like the downtown lifestyle. It's away from some of the homeless and drug problem that we're experiencing downtown. It has some really well-built condos and amenities nearby, and you can just walk out your door and walk into Beacon Hill Park, and you can walk up the road for take out food, and you can go to the Royal Theatre, and everything's right there. So it's all very lifestyle dependent, and that's the beautiful. Here's the sales pitch for Victoria, folks. Beautiful thing is you can find anything you want within 20 minutes, and you just there's so many different areas that we can find you that are going to be working for your lifestyle.
Jen?
Yeah, I want to hear Jen's answer.
It's West Shore?
Yeah, I lived in West Shore all my life. I do find when people ask, they're looking to move to Greater Victoria, and I'm always like, I'm biased. I have to admit, I've never left the West Shore. I raised a family in the West Shore. The amenities, it's been a growing community, having been in the West Shore from, the 80s, early 80s, and just seeing where it is now, it's night and day. So I am totally biased to the West Shore. I'm someone personally, I don't want to be right where all the action is. I like the peace and quiet. And
that's one thing. Yeah.
You're not just house proud, you're community proud.
Yes. There we go.
So it's interesting coming. So I'm not from Victoria originally. I'm from downtown Toronto, Yonge and Eglinton. I lived in the West End. I lived in the East End, which is unusual for Toronto because usually when you pass Yonge Street, you're either east or west. You don't go. I've lived in the beaches, and I would say, so when people are coming to Victoria, what's the biggest thing? What are the biggest advantages? The proximity to the ocean, you can get there almost from any community somehow. The parks, you can walk dogs and you can go into nature and explore nature almost anywhere close by, except maybe the core. And food, it's again like my favorite pizza place, 900 Degrees, opened up in Sydney, and they opened up in Sydney for a reason, because there's a bit of there's good choices there. Entertainment, I think you have to go downtown. Yeah. Not really much else like otherwise in the city.
You're getting some events and such out in Colwood, Langford.
Oh yeah, the beach stuff.
Beach stuff,
Yeah,
or
sports.
the foodie events and stuff. I forgot.
Yeah.
And some music. You get some great music out in the West Shore now. So there's that. It's a good place to go. West Shore actually has a lot of vibrancy, and more coming.
And also, if you want to live a lake life, there's Langford Lake, Glen Lake, and you can go up to Shawnigan Lake, and you know, it's such a great place. I just love living here.
We just got into a love fest for Victoria, and I love that. Like, this wasn't on the docket for talking about. It just was like, what do you love about Victoria? And then we just like go off on a tangent, and yeah.
Oh well.
Good.
Okay, you guys. So we are on every Thursday at 9:30. Stay tuned. We have some exciting speakers coming up. We're just finalizing them. I got somebody from Korea who wants to talk. We have the Mayor of Victoria who wants to come and chat. And we have some other speakers, downsizing, etc. So stay tuned, watch. And if you have questions, just email us and we'll be happy to answer. You guys, how do we get in touch with you?
So reach out to me, Andrew Plank, Personal Real Estate Corporation, at 250-360-6106. Email is info@andrewplank.com. I am with the Vibe Collective, and you can check out the website, realvibe.ca, or my own personal website, andrewplank.com.
Okay. And Jen?
I am at 250-217-4925. I'm with Modern Mortgage Group. Email address is jen@jenlow.ca, and my website is jenlow.ca.
Okay, and you can reach me. I'm Jane Johnston, Personal Real Estate Corporation. We're going to do that now. My number is 250-744-0775. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com. My website's briarhillgroup.com. You can also watch these shows and more at victoriarealestateshow.com, and also on our YouTube pages. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at realtyteacher_remax_Victoria, or Briar Hill Group. That's easy to remember. All right, you guys, have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday. Take care, everybody.
Next Thursday. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.